procrastination really has nothing to do with laziness and everything to do with resistance. And a lot of times when people procrastinate, it's really truly because they don't feel worthy of the thing that they're trying to make happen.
Erica, what's the biggest obstacle you've had to overcome in your own life?
That's a good one. My biggest obstacle for sure that I have had to overcome that I'm still working on is my self-worth and, my struggle with self-worth. I've done a lot of work to try to heal that and work on that. And I think that being an artist in Hollywood requires you to put yourself out there in a way that most people won't really have to do in their lifetime if they weren't pursuing a big dream, if they weren't trying to do something challenging. It requires a lot of you. And, through rejection and also through, depending on what your job is in the industry, what your craft is, it can feel so personal, like what you are putting out, your work that you are putting out, it's like you, right? It's attached to you. So I think that, I tend to attract a lot of clients who are like myself. And I think a lot of artists in general struggle with self-worth more so because it's on display so much more often than maybe other people who aren't working in an industry like Hollywood would have to, face essentially. Which I guess it's a good thing. It's a good thing that that I need to work on this and that I need to get better. But it's really been my biggest obstacle because I think that it impacts everything I do. It impacts how I put myself out there, how I ask for things that I want. If I, come across as someone who believes they're worthy of what they want, or, I talk to my clients a lot about how a lot of artists come across as desperate in the, please choose me, am I good enough? Tell me I'm good enough. And I think a lot of us, struggle with that. So I myself have struggled with that as well. And I think especially shifting into my coaching business where I have to build a business on me, where I'm the brand, and it's been a whole extra layer of me working through some self-worth stuff, I guess you could say. But that's definitely been my biggest obstacle.
I'm wondering if struggles with self-worth actually propel someone to go pretty far, because when I've done like little bits of research on a lot of people, whether it's acting, music, whatever, I find a lot of them have a missing parent.
Interesting.
And I think that causes people to do interesting things. And so I'm wondering if that almost propels people to go further, where someone who doesn't, it's more safe. And so, oh, okay, I didn't get this. Well, that's all right. But somebody who really is like obsessed with it, it actually, that self-worth sort of wound actually makes them rise up more. I hope I'm making sense here.
No, you're making perfect sense. I mean, Tony Robbins talks a lot about the idea of if you grew up without a lot of trauma or obstacles or issues, you're almost in a worse spot trying to achieve big goals. He's, because of exactly what you're talking about, this like safe, comfortable kind of bubble. And a lot of people, look at people like Oprah, who had an incredibly challenging childhood, right? So a lot of the times that people who grew up with a lot of obstacles or potentially a lot of trauma, it does propel them. It does ignite a fire perhaps, or helps them succeed. I think with self-worth particularly, it could totally go in that direction. But I find, at least with the clients that I work with, is that more often than not, it actually does hold people back from taking bigger risks or putting themselves out there in a bigger way. And so they do it kind of in a safe way of, and I myself struggle with this, and I know that I can catch myself when I do this. Sometimes I'll, make a post for my business or something, and I'll do it to an audience that I know already loves and accepts me. And so, I think that if you doubt yourself and you don't feel worthy of what you want, it usually ends up holding you back. So like if people procrastination really has nothing to do with laziness and everything to do with resistance. And a lot of times when people procrastinate, it's really truly because they don't feel worthy of the thing that they're trying to make happen. So I do feel like, I think it can definitely go in the direction that you're talking about. And I think other obstacles and trauma absolutely does propel somebody forward. But a lot of times with self-worth, it holds us back from, going after the big things that we want.
Right. Yeah, I'm thinking of like Marilyn Monroe, and the lack of self-worth probably took her very far, but it also could have taken her down, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, I guess too, if you don't have a strong sense of self or a strong self-worth, you're going to let a lot of people tell you how to live your life. Tell you, back to these like Hollywood boxes, like for example, if you don't have a strong self-worth, maybe you do end up booking projects, booking shows, booking features, but none of them feel aligned. Like you don't actually feel happy, you feel miserable, right? Because you let somebody else tell you what you should feel or what you should go after because you didn't feel that you were worthy of the things that you really want.
So Tony Robb, I guess maybe I have heard that from him before, but so you've heard him say that it's actually not an impediment to having had like sort of the safe upbringing, or maybe it is. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't want to butcher his words and say it incorrectly. I'm just recalling, my memory of what he said. But that was like I have remembered that because it's interesting. Like I am someone who is incredibly determined and ambitious, but I did have somewhat of a comfortable life, and sometimes I wonder if that propelled me. Actually, this is like a totally different topic, but if that propelled me in a way where like I feel less scared to go after certain things or to take some risks because I feel like I still have a safety net of my family. Like I have a good family life, so I feel like I still have this safety net. So maybe it's less scary for me than other people, but I don't know. From what I remember of what he said, I'm pretty sure he did say that, people that struggled more in their childhood or in their lives kind of have that one up on, I don't know, maybe being ambitious or pursuing your goals.
What's the biggest challenge you've helped one of your clients through?
One of the biggest challenges that I have helped my clients with, and this probably doesn't sound very sexy, but I feel like I feel very fortunate to connect with people who are struggling in their careers and are really down about it. And the fortunate part comes with how I get to help them. Not that I'm so glad that people are struggling. That maybe came out wrong. But I've been very fortunate to connect with these people who feel really down about their careers because maybe it has been some time and they're not where they want to be yet. And so sometimes people come to me where they're depressed and they're really feeling down. And by the end of the time we're working together, they feel happy again. They feel excited again in their career, they feel hopeful. And that energy switch is so crucial to what comes next in terms of their strategic moves and what opportunities come their way. Like it really does help them bring in a new level up opportunity. And so I think, like I've had clients who are on the verge of quitting and I'm like one of their last resorts, And so I think for me, that's one of the most challenging things that I've helped clients with, but I think that is so rewarding because it's so awesome to see people who started feeling really down and really depressed about their career, who now, like one of my new clients, I mean, we're only like a month in and she's already feeling so excited and hopeful. And that is just so awesome. I mean, I just feel so fortunate to be able to help people. Like, I feel like one of my superpowers is helping people believe in themselves and really seeing what's possible. And so I feel honored to kind of relight that spark for people and help them get back to what's possible and get back to their dream.
Well, it's like dating, like when you're in a relationship, all of a sudden now all these people are attracted to you. When you weren't, no one would call, nothing happened. Yeah. But then all of a sudden you give off this energy of like, I don't really need it that much or whatever. And I think that the
desperation goes
away. Something happens, and whether it's dating or business or whatever. But I don't know if it's the same for some of what you've talked about?
I mean, a little bit, for me, it's about the energy. And it's about getting in alignment with the energy of the thing that you desire. So if you're feeling really down and really low, which is normal and happens all the time, you're not likely to attract, exciting new opportunities, right? It's like if you're feeling like really low and you're right here, and these opportunities that you want are up here, you're not in alignment with them. And so when you start to feel good again and inspired and excited, it brings you up here. And now suddenly you are in alignment with these new opportunities. And I think from like a slightly more tangible way to explain this is that when you are feeling really down and really low, you are problem oriented, right? And I know that I've been this way. When I went through my really challenging year, 2009, and I was really depressed, my mom would suggest solutions to me. And she would think of ideas to help me. And I would say no to everything. I would shoot down everything. I was just not in the energy of accepting help or accepting a solution because I was feeling so low. And so when you're feeling hopeful and excited again, suddenly it's like, oh, there's opportunity everywhere. I see solutions everywhere. So your belief system and your energy, it's all controlling the opportunities might have existed around you the whole time, but you just didn't see them. I always talk about the example of the FedEx logo. Do you know the FedEx logo?
So, I mean, I would know the colors. It's like
the purple and the orange.
Yeah.
And do you know that there's like the hidden arrow in between the E and the X of FedEx in the white space?
Maybe I don't know.
So I say this because a lot of people tend to know about the arrow. And so if you don't know about the arrow, go look at the FedEx logo. And so it's in the negative space, the white space between the E and the X.
Okay.
And that was intentionally done because FedEx is about, movement. And so there's also a little hidden baking spoon in the lowercase e that most people don't know.
Really? Okay.
And the idea is that even if you didn't know about that arrow and that baking spoon, they were always there. You might have looked at that logo 100 times and you didn't see that because you didn't know it was there. You didn't know to look. But it doesn't mean that they didn't exist. They were always there. So it's like when you are feeling hopeful and excited and you're feeling good, you know to look for opportunities that are always around you. But if you're feeling depressed and low, you're probably not even going to see them, even though they might be right in front of you.
What do you do for people that they can't necessarily do for themselves?
Two things, I think. One is, like I talked about, I think that I help people believe in themselves and believe in what's possible in a way they never have before. I feel very proud. I feel like it is my superpower, to really help people expand their view of what is truly possible. And the other thing that I do that people might not be able to do for themselves is to see their blind spots, right? So I can usually have a conversation with them and fairly quickly determine where their blind spots are in terms of like what's holding them back. If they talk to me about their strategy, I can pick out what's really holding them back in that strategy, what the limiting belief is. Just the other day, I was on a podcast interview and I was coaching the one of the hosts, and he talked about how him and his producing partner, they live somewhere else in the United States, and they're working on moving to Las Vegas. And they had this whole plan about why that was a good decision. And I said, tell me why you're moving to Las Vegas instead of LA. Tell me why you're not moving to LA, right? And so they told me all these reasons that were really fear-based. They didn't believe that they could afford to live here. They didn't believe they'd find any work. They didn't, they had all these stories that they decided on that created their decision. And then that decision leads to dream adjacent, right? And so I think that we can't always see our blind spots. That's why I work with coaches too. I have people help me with my blind spots. And so we can't see them on our own, because our mind is really good at justifying our decisions. Our mind is really good at coming up with reasons or excuses about why what we're doing is the right thing to do or the best thing for us. But a lot of times, we're holding ourselves back. And so I help people with that and really helping them recognize where their blind spots may be.